Leanne.
That was 20 years ago, Michael. I think when Leanne did it.
Can't be 20 years already. Oh my God. Oh my
Michael,
God.
in our life, it was really 5 years ago.
Exactly.
You know, the way we count time, it was 5 years ago.
Right.
There we go. Okay, so we are live now, and let me invite Eric in. So just to talk a little bit about the process, the code gives us 6 months to complete the business at hand. So as of today, you're sworn in, so the board exists, and there's 6 months to complete the work. I did send out some of the previous reports from other ward districting committees, so you can look those over, and we'll, I will send out notices for all the meetings like we did this one, I'm assuming that they'll all be virtual. We do at some point need to hold a public hearing, and that can be done virtually or in person. That's up to you all. We do allow public meetings again in city buildings, but we do require masks. So we'll talk about that as we go forward, but the public hearing won't come until you have something to introduce to the public usually. And I think that's all from me for now. Yes, Miss Smith, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's not. It's the same Zoom check-in. Past the link was the same for all meetings.
I think there will be a new link each time, and we'll send. We set it up on our Google Calendar system, so we'll send you an invitation that you can add to your calendar if you use Google, or you can just click on the link if not.
Okay.
Okay. Excellent. Eric Lashinsky has joined us, so if he wants to introduce himself.
Hey everyone, Eric Lashinsky with Planning and Zoning Department, Chief of Comprehensive Planning. I may have met some of you already on other calls. Comprehensive planning is sort of the role within our Planning and Zoning Department that looks holistically at all the various aspects of the city. And another way to think about it is long-range planning. Where do we want to go as a city, and what goals do we want to have? And so I'm working on the comprehensive plan for the city right now, which is something we do every 10 years. That's a big part of my job. But I've been here a little more than a year, native of Annapolis. Hope I can be of assistance to you as you deliberate on this committee, and happy to be involved.
And
Thank you.
Sean Wampler is our mapping guru. She can introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Sean. I'm the GIS coordinator for the city. I was involved in the last redistricting, and we'll be using pretty much the same tools that we used then. So just let me know what you need, and Hillary will get more into what they want, I guess, later in this meeting.
You're on mute.
Sorry about that. If we want to go around the members, and we can get some introductions from you. Ward 1, we have Miss Emma Smith.
Hi, Emma Smith. Lived in Annapolis for a little over 20 years. I don't know what else to say.
Welcome, Miss Smith.
Thank you.
And we have the mayor's appointee is also Ward 2. So the Ward 2 representative is Mr. Brandon Wright. I'm sorry, Brandon Wright. So if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah, good evening. I'm Brandon Wright. I live in Admiral Heights, and I'm happy to serve the city and my community on this commission.
Thank you, Mr. Wright. And Mr. Lloyd is also from Ward 2.
How you doing? My name is Harold Lloyd. Everybody call me Chucky. I'm a 5th generation Annapolitan, and I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. From Ward 3, we have Miss Lisa Wilson.
Hello, everyone. Lisa Wilson, native Annapolitan, been here 50 plus years, I would say that. And my family's from here. So we've lived in the parole area since 1945.
And it looks like our Ward 4 representative wasn't able to join us tonight, so we'll go to Ward 5. Mr. Littman.
Thank you, Jared Littman. My day job is K&B True Value. I'm a former alderman for Ward 5 from, when was that, 2013 to 2017, and previously served on the task force for the Public Works building.
Thank you, Jared. And Ward 6, we don't have our Ward 6 person here. Ward 7, we have Miss Marianne Arnett.
Hi, I'm Marianne Arnett. I've lived in Annapolis since 2003, the entire time in Ward 7. And I'm just interested in the way this whole process works. So I thought I'd sign up and see what it's all about.
Thank you. And Ward 8, we have Miss Michael Matthews.
Hi, I am Ward 8, lifelong Annapolitan in East Porter. And Marianne, be careful what you ask for, because how the sausage is made is definitely this.
Yeah, I'm finding that out in more ways than one, Michael, believe me.
Well, thank you all for your service to the city of Annapolis. It is deeply appreciated by all of us. There will be a lot of information to process, but tonight we're really just here for introductions and a little bit of a quick briefing. Sean Wampler is going to give us a briefing on the data, give us some information about the census data. The big picture, of course, is that every 10 years, we look at our ward boundaries. We need to look at how many people are in each ward and distribute them across the ward so that we don't have one ward that's way bigger than the other wards. So we'll be looking at the data and how it's changed since the last census, and then it'll be your job to decide where those boundaries go. And there are some restrictions by federal law, and we'll get all that information out to you guys as well. Okay, so Sean, if you want to tell us about the data and some changes.
So can I share my screen? Try this again. Okay, is that visible?
Yes.
Okay, so this is just, this will be made public. It's going through review right now. This is just giving you a little breakdown of how the census numbers changed between 2010 and 2020. So I'm not sure how familiar anyone is with how the census is done and how the numbers break out. But our population grew in every ward. So I think Ward 2 had the largest growth and Ward 7 had the least amount. So there will need to be some changes to the ward lines, you know, as the populations have shifted. We're also going to release some data on how things break down by ward, by race and ethnicity. You will become very familiar with the differences in race and ethnicity through this process. But this is just to give you kind of a starting point. These maps are interactive. So if you wanted to pull something out and look at it, you can do so. And information is given in a chart form as well as in these little drop downs. So this is what the public will see. The smallest area that is broken down by the census is called the census block. Those areas are, it's not recommended that we put the data out to the public at that level because a census block could be one person. Because the blocks are determined by boundaries, be them roads, physical, or natural boundaries. So what the census, and they've even said this, they actually fudge some of the data so that you can't pinpoint one person. But I will not put that to the public. What I can do is give you access to our GIS system with a login so that you can go in and see these blocks and the intricate data within. So based on everyone's comfort level, obviously, during meetings and things, I can run through things, but if it's something you want to see outside the meetings, I would need to create you a login. So let me kind of show you how that breaks down. Just have to share a different screen. So what this one will do, each of these little sections is a block with the total population for those blocks. Now, in the background, I have the ward boundaries. So you can see kind of how things break out right now. Every 10 years before they do the population counts, they do a boundary review. So the blocks change because, we can't have consistency between 2010 and 2020. So I can't do a direct correlation of this is how many people were in Ward 7 in 2010, and this is their number in 2020. It is an approximation based on where those blocks fall. So let me see if I can find you a good example. You can see how this one cuts a little bit. The block line has changed. One of the rules we have to follow with this is we can't split blocks. When we move a boundary, like for this one, we move 156 people. We can't go smaller in that region. So it'll be a lot, if it was like last time, a lot of back and forth. Well, what happens if we move this block to this ward? What happens if we move this block to that ward? And trying to get an even number of people in each one. So I think our target is 5120 would be if we divided the city out for all 8. So does that make sense? Does anyone have any questions? How does everyone feel about having access and looking at the viewer?
Is it possible for you to go back up and give us the current total number from the 2020 census?
Sure. Let me share.
And Sean, do you have that page? I think you showed me a page that was I think that's it. Yeah, we zoom in on that. That shows the changes in the ward as well.
So it's 38,394, and we're up to 40,812.
Now,
Thank you.
that one more thing with that number for redistricting purposes will change. The state of Maryland requires us to use their set of numbers for redistricting because by state law, people who are incarcerated, you go by their last known address. The census does not take that into consideration. The state of Maryland, we have to use their adjusted numbers.
Okay.
So that number will be a little different. It's not by much. I want to say it's 180 people or something, but we have to use that state set of numbers.
Okay.
And Sean,
Yes.
you say that you can give us access so we can disaggregate the information compared to what the public sees?
Yes, I can give you a further breakdown to that block level data. So
Yeah,
you
that
will
would
have
be-
a much more granular view of the information.
That would be really helpful.
But it will require me to give you a login. So I wanted to see what everyone's interest was before I went that route and then found out nobody wanted it.
I'm interested.
Would like
Yeah,
one,
I'm
please.
interested as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
And Hillary,
interested.
you can send me emails because I have to send it out that way. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, if everyone can confirm for me this week that the email address that I sent your information to was the best email address for you, as well as getting me your phone numbers and addresses, I will make up a contact sheet and share it with everyone who's staffing this group or in this group, that we don't release people's our board members' private information to the public, but we'll release it to each other.
When you get the email, it will not come from me. It will come from arcgis.com.
So Sean, you want us to email you with just confirmation that we'd like access? Did I hear that correctly?
It sounds like everyone's interested, so I can just go ahead and create one for everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And Sean, the population of 40,812, you got a slightly different number dividing that by 8 than when I divide that by 8.
It's because I'm using the state adjusted. When I've already done some of the preliminary work, and I remember that number was like, I think it was 50. Is it 50? It's like 5120 or somewhere in there. But I have it.
101.5.
Right.
So, but yeah, that'll be in our data that we use for the redistricting.
Okay. So the 5120 is a adjusted somehow from the 4812 divided by 8.
Yes.
Okay.
And then Sean, will you be making all of this preliminary data available to us in some sort of a document? I'm taking notes, but I'm assuming that somehow we'll have a more cohesive or coherent thing than just what my notes are.
What I did in the last redistricting is we did 2 things. I created maps at that time on paper and provided them to the members, as well as I gave each member the opportunity when they wanted to come in and sit with me directly to start kind of moving the blocks around to see if they could find a plan that they liked, that they wanted to submit. And I had 4 or 5 of the group, I believe, come in and sit with me to give their versions of how they felt the ward should be divided. So what we could do this time, now that we have a lot more digital tools, is I don't think I can give you the software where you kind of move this line and it readjusts all the numbers for you, but I can give you kind of the plans that we developed together with those block numbers so that you can start to see, okay, well, if we move this one, or, I'm adding this much and I'm taking away this much. I'm thinking we kind of need to play with it and see what works as the group.
Last time when the commission would meet, when commissioners met with you separately and they did their ward boundaries, you printed out maps. So when the commission met, they would put the maps side by side and look at it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know if we can do everything virtually I don't know how that would work virtually, but you're the computer genius, so.
Well, we can certainly, share my screen and look at things together. And I can also provide PDFs of the maps so that if you wanted, and Hillary, you could probably help facilitate if anyone wanted them printed.
Absolutely. Yeah. We can email them out or print them, and we can meet in person. As I said, it's just the rule currently is that everybody has to be masked, but we do have a conference room here and we can meet.
I'm interested, since we have people who've been on the previous commission or 2 even, it's maybe if I heard correctly, just a quick summary or overview of what the process worked like in the past and whether or not we duplicate that, we could determine, but it'd be nice to know what's been done before so we don't have to create something that's already been created.
Don't want to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
Right.
My recollection from last time is that we started with, so at the next meeting, we would give you some presentations. I believe the Office of Law will give us the presentation on the federal rules for redistricting. And Sean will demonstrate the tool in more detail. Do some playing around. And then my recollection, and Sean, correct me if I'm wrong, is that, as she said, individuals looked at what their proposals, and then they sort of presented them back to the group. And then people came to a consensus about how to move forward. And then eventually, once you have a plan, and you can present more than one plan, I believe, to the council. You can have like, this is the majority plan, this is a minority plan. Then those go to public hearing, and then they go to the council as well. So, and that will be next year. We'll do that
Okay. And
next council year, sorry.
so for rules like the point about having an equal number of people in each ward, does that come from city code or is that federal law?
Federal
And
law.
obviously, what's that?
It's the feds. It's
Federal
the
law.
federal law.
Yeah,
And
and
obviously,
there's
some leeway.
Yes.
There's obviously some
Do you
leeway because
recall
the
the-
words.
Do you recall the differential?
I feel like it was you needed to be under 8% is sticking in my head. Like
In the report that you sent out, it was 10%.
okay.
And one of the things that we struggled with last time, and ironically, it didn't happen, but one of the issues was that there were wards with proposed developments. So we knew that they were going to have a lot more people in them when the developments were completed. And we assumed that that would happen in this 10-year period, but the development in question still hasn't been built. So it didn't happen.
Yes.
But that was one of the things they really struggled with, is all we can work with is the numbers that we have. We
That we
can't
have,
work
yeah.
with theoretical numbers. So you can't you could underpopulate a ward by the 10%, but no more.
And
Right,
it was really shocking. And I reran the data 2 times because I was convinced I had it wrong. Is Ward 2 grew by, I want to say 15%. And the
Wow.
rest of the wards were between 5 and 6, and Ward 7 was under 1. But I was like, why is that one so much bigger? But you had the Oberry development that no one was living there during that point in the census. So I think it added, plus the fact that I can't match apples to apples between the block boundaries of 2010 and 2020.
So Hillary, to the point that you raised with proposed developments, at what point do you consider it a done development that you should factor in those numbers?
And not for the next 10 years, not until they've been censused. So until they're counted in the census, they don't exist. So even if it is,
Exactly.
like if 1,000 people moved to a ward between when the census was done in 2020 and now, they could not be factored into this process. You could keep them in mind to know that there really are more people in that ward, but they can't be factored into the official 10% differential.
Okay.
So isn't that where we would use that 10% discretion? Okay.
That would be one way to approach it. That's up to you, but that's one way to approach it, is to intentionally keep something on the lower end if you know that there's going to be more population there.
Okay.
But that's not required. That's just a thought. Sean, I just made you a co-host because my computer's going to die and I might have to switch to a different computer
Oh, okay.
so that we don't lose the meeting.
Hillary, do you have people for each ward, the ones that are not represented on this call that just weren't able to make it today, but they've been responsive otherwise?
Our Ward 4 representative is not here. I'm just checking now to see. I thought we had someone for 6, but no, there's only one person not here. So I guess we don't have a Ward 6 representative.
Okay.
So one of the things, the primary goal tonight, besides introductions, is to select a chair. If anyone is interested in being chair, this would be a good time to tell me that you'd like to be chair and tell your fellow members why you think you should be chair.
Deafening silence.
This is Jared. I'm willing to do it. I've served as the chair of, like I said, the task force for the Public Works building. I don't need to be. If anyone else has a burning desire, I'm happy to step aside, but I'm willing to do it.
Oh, no.
No,
Don't you
I
also have a law
I
degree?
second your nomination, Jared.
Yeah, Jared, you have a law degree also, correct?
I do. I have an
Yeah,
engineering.
it should be you. It should be you.
I have an
Because-
engineering degree, a law degree, and I served on councils. So I have some familiarity with some of these issues.
All in favor of Jared?
If somebody could, I'm sorry, for the record, somebody needs to nominate and then somebody needs to second. So
I nominate Jared Littman to be chair.
I second.
Second.
I'm sorry, who was the second?
Brandon.
Brandon, thank you, Brandon.
Thank you. I should say that my offer is contingent on there being a vice chair.
And all
I'm
in
happy to
favor,
All in favor of Jared? Aye.
I,
thank you.
Thank you, Jared.
You're welcome. So someone else has got to step up and be vice chair, because inevitably there'll be something that comes up, a call or a
Jared.
meeting or something.
Jared, I will, but it has to wait till after the election because I'm a little busy right now.
All right.
Not
present the
that
clock
much
for
is
2
gonna
weeks.
happen. We won't do that much between now and the election day.
Yeah, but I'm just putting that out there that I only have one
Okay.
thing on my mind now.
So can I
I appreciate
nominate
that.
Mary Ann Arnett for second chair?
I second.
All in
Anyone
favor?
else? Any discussion? Anyone else that anyone else that wanted to volunteer?
No.
Okay. Okay.
All in favor of Mary Ann?
Thank you.
Thanks, Marianne.
You're
Okay,
welcome.
Jared, it's your meeting now. You get to lead.
Wait, what are we doing again? Well, thank you for your faith. So yeah, I'm still going to be figuring this. Obviously, I've never served on the Ward Boundaries Commission before, so I'm going to be with you all who haven't done it either. My style is to hear from everybody and to make sure we all have clear assignments on what our work is between now and the next one, and then give everyone time to do your assignments and present when you come back, with the expectation everyone is going to do that. I'm not a big fan of presenting information that we haven't seen before a meeting, so that we all have a chance without some notice. So I'll ask that whenever we have a meeting, that you share the documents in advance, so that with me first, and I'll share it with everybody, so everybody has a chance to read, and then have the expectation that during the meeting itself, everyone will have done their homework and read everything, so that our time together is spent discussing and not just reading or presenting for the first time something we haven't seen before.
Amen.
Sounds reasonable.
I'd like to run an efficient meeting if possible.
And I will schedule for your next meeting a briefing on the legal, the guidelines for redistricting. And is there anything else that you all would like to hear from staff at the next meeting?
Quick question, because of COVID, I have to ask, Sean, are you still there?
It looks like she stepped out for a moment.
Okay. Are we able to meet in person with Sean to do the map configurations?
Sean, are you comfortable with in-person meetings with people on the board?
Yes.
Okay. And, I am vaccinated and I will come with mask.
I'm
So-
vaccinated as well.
Okay.
And in city buildings, masks are still required, so that's a move.
Okay.
How often are we anticipating that we're going to meet? And it would help me schedule wise if we could set up a standing meeting time so that I can get it into my calendar, and I'm sure that would help other people as well.
That's the next thing I was going to say. So today is the third Tuesday of the month. Is that a good time for everyone going forward?
Yes.
As long as it's the third Tuesday, because I had a discussion earlier today about, it is, okay, that works.
I can't do the third Tuesday after 6:30.
Okay, is 5 o'clock good for everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
Is it 5 to 6?
Yeah, with a little leeway to the 6. Well, anything we need from Sean, we'll ask for between 5 and 6.
And it's just because I serve on another board.
So let's plan to meet at least monthly on the third Tuesday of the month between 5 to 6 on Zoom. With the asterisk, if we need to either meet more often or change the time if something comes up, but at least getting those next 5 meetings in the books would be helpful.
And
Yes.
I will send all of you the contact sheet. If you haven't sent me your contact information, please do so ASAP, and I'll populate the rest of that sheet and send it out to everyone. And I will set up your meetings and your Zooms for the next 5 meetings.
Okay. One quick question. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ms. Smith.
Just call me Emma, please.
Okay.
But maybe it's not up there. But the PDFs you talked about, could you just, I want to say, send them out optional. If someone would like to print, they can. If they don't want to, they don't have to, instead of asking each time, or however you
I would
plan
say
to do it.
generally we do everything by email unless you request it in written form. And if you want, in printed form, if you want them printed, I can send them out through the mail, which can take some time these days, or I can always have them here at City Hall for you to pick up.
Okay.
Okay. Jared, my question is for you.
Sure.
Do you know Ron Jerisaw?
I know the
Used to be
name.
a judge?
I know the name, but that's about it.
Okay, he was chair last time, and the reason why I was like, he's a lawyer, you're a lawyer, there's a little legal ease in the whole process, and maybe if you got to have a conversation with him, he could give you more of the legal aspect to help guide all the rest of us who don't speak legal through this process.
That's a great idea. So he was the last chair?
Yes.
And do you or Hillary have his contact information?
I do. I can send it to you.
Thanks, Hillary.
Thank you.
I'd like to have an overview given by somebody from the city. I'm not sure whether that's Eric, Sean, or Eric or Sean, probably one of you two. Maybe just on the next meeting, kind of talk through each of the wards of some of the boundary issues that we could anticipate addressing, maybe some either new developments or where neighborhoods have gotten bigger or smaller, or maybe where there have been sort of the oddities of each ward. And maybe if I would like for each of us, like for one meeting for all of us to hear that, not just the individual ward representative.
That's great. We
I
can
think
do
that's
that.
a really good idea. I would also like a discussion about some of the pitfalls. When I was reading through the report, there was a lot of emphasis on the racial makeup of the wards and what the considerations were that went into having them defined the way they were. So a discussion about what we need to be sensitive to as we're going into this redistricting process, and especially with the realization that our Hispanic population has grown, even though they're not technically considered a race, they're certainly an ethnicity. And so I would like to have some sort of guidelines along those lines.
There were some changes this year in the census and how that information was collected, and I can provide a document that I found with regards to that to this board on, and that's something that the state does kind of with their data is doing I noticed too, instead of the adjustment does have, it almost makes the Hispanic ethnicity a race for that purpose.
Okay.
Do we have anyone on this commission that is Hispanic?
Do not.
Okay,
That's too bad.
it is.
But I can definitely ask to hear, if you'd like to hear from our Hispanic liaison or somebody else in the community, I'm happy to.
I think both, if we still have an African-American liaison too, right? The
We
city
do.
does?
Yep.
So maybe hearing from both would be helpful. I don't know. I think all of these issues and presentations are great ideas. I want to be cognizant of not filling up the hour more than we could hear from. We've already got the legal issues, presentation of all of the wards on the boundaries, at least. We don't need to worry about the center of each ward so much. We have the racial makeup discussion, and then hearing from the Hispanic and African-American liaisons.
Excellent.
Full meeting.
Yeah.
Great. So I think that's all we need to cover tonight, unless people have other questions or topics they want to bring up.
Are there any other individuals you think that will be likely critics or watching this process that might be nice to hear from them in advance to know what their issues are going to be?
The aldermen,
Yeah, I was going to say, I think
Nothing
last time
personal.
we
Good
heard
point.
from the
the
alderman.
aldermen, they're gonna weigh in.
Okay.
It's coming.
It'd be nice to know what their concerns were from the beginning, whether or not we choose to address them, but it'd be nice to have a list of issues. Hillary, do you have any thoughts on how to best hear from them efficiently?
I think last time we just invited them to one of the meetings, and not all of them came. Not all of them had particular issues they wanted covered, but in the end, I believe, I'm trying to think what the process is, that they end up voting on the recommendations in the council anyway. So,
They
After
made,
they tweaked
they
it,
made changes. Yeah.
yeah,
they
have
made
very
changes, they
recommended.
tweaked it.
Mhm.
So,
So I don't know if we would have time. So I don't know if we'd have time if we added all of them up. If we gave 5 minutes to each of them, that's 40 minutes.
and again, I'm not sure they'll all want to come before the board, but I can check in with them in about a week and a half.
Okay, right, of course.
Yeah.
When we
that-
know who they are, then we can check in and see if they're
See who
interested.
they are, yeah.
presenting.
That would be helpful, including the outgoing ones, if they are aware of issues. For that matter, outgoing and incoming, if there's a change. Well, Ward 2 for it, we'll definitely have a different person. I don't know if there's any other definites, but it would be nice to hear from Fred. It just says it will be nice to hear from whoever wins the election, if they have any particular issues they'd like us to consider, to at least extend that invitation.
Yes.
Excellent.
Okay.
I do have a question. Are we going to have a Ward 6 representative or?
There was not one appointed. I just looked back at the legislation and there was not one appointed from Ward 6.
Is it possible that we could get one? I think it's hugely
It's,
important.
it's very
I
important.
believe it would have to be done by legislation. You were created by resolution. So when the new council sits in December, we can ask them we can ask the Ward 6 alderman. I know all the alder people were given an opportunity to nominate.
Yeah.
There wasn't anyone who wasn't nominated that as far as I'm aware. I shouldn't say that. I'm not positive, but I didn't hear anything like that. So after the election, once the new council sits first week of December, we could ask them. And if not, we could at least hear from somebody, a Ward 6 representative.
Yeah, if anyone here has a connection to anyone in Ward 6 that would like to be a representative, even if they weren't an official member, they I'd be happy to have an invited guest from Ward 6 join us for each meeting.
What about the previous representative?
Do you know who that is, Hillary?
6, no. From the last redistricting committee, you mean? I do not know.
That's a great
The
idea.
wards, the
I don't think it
previous,
was well
the previous Ward 6 representative from 10 years ago did not, maybe attended 2 meetings.
I can tell you the names who was on it. There was Ron Jarshow, whatever.
Chair.
Chris Bucheister, Anthony Evans, Lee Finney, Devin Heritage, Barbara Hopkins, Maurice Hunt, Kathy Jones, Randy Landis, Michael Matthews, Carl Snowden, and Barbara Toran. Does any of that ring a bell, Michael?
Yeah, and there were parole and Ward 6. Their representatives rarely came to meetings.
Yeah, there were a couple who were absent quite a bit when I read the meeting
Yeah.
minutes. Okay, so I know what those last names were, Jones, Evans, and Hunt. So it was one of them.
But if they didn't participate so much, I'm not sure it's worth pursuing who that was.
No.
If there's someone more active in the ward now.
Mhm.
I'll reach out to Shanika Henson, who formerly represented Ward 6, to see if she has any ideas.
Yeah.
But certainly would welcome input from anybody.
What about Andre Atkins? He's pretty active in the ward. He's the Eastport Harbor House,
Yeah.
Port Terrace Harbor House. He may either be interested or know someone.
I hope so.
For the individuals that you're mentioning, once you get past the election, would you mind reaching out to whoever you know and from Ward 6 and see if we could, between all of our collective efforts, find somebody who's willing to at least be an invited guest. And then once the council has time to address it, we can get them formally added. But I would imagine most people wouldn't mind being just an invited guest until they could be in the meantime.
You said it's in December. Do you have a date in December? Or just,
I'm sorry?
you say it's in December that they won't be able to be elected, well, for the resolution.
Yeah, but I would imagine even even after the election, it'll take until December 3rd or so, in the beginning of December, that they're formally sworn in. And then I don't think it's till January that they'll have a formal meeting. And so even if they fast tracked it, you're looking at the second or so week in January for them to both introduce the resolution and approve it. And if they don't fast track it, if they ask for public hearing, then it's going to be probably early February till we get someone added.
Okay.
So that's why I would ask that we have an invited guest in the meantime. Okay, well, that's I think that'll be a pretty robust meeting for next time. If we have, let's go through it one more time. Someone to help us identify the racial makeups of the various wards and where the populations are. Someone to help us identify likely issues around each boundary. We'll hear from the law office on legal issues. We'll hear from the African-American and the Hispanic liaisons. We'll offer a 5 minutes to incoming and outgoing alderpersons. And I think that's our meeting plan. I'll try to get an agenda out to everyone in advance so we can have some time estimates of how much time everyone has, and I'll do my best to stick to our agenda. Appreciate everyone supporting me as chair and being on the council and doing your best to help us give a good product to the council to vote on.
Yep.
Okay. Anyone else want to have any parting words before we sign off? Okay.
Just please be in touch if you need anything from city staff.
Okay.
Thank
And
you.
Hillary, you'll send a contact list for internal use, and Sean will get us each an email invite to her the behind the curtain magic.
I like the technical way you said that, Jaron.
Yes, thank you. That is a technical term, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Behind the curtain magic.
Right. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful
Thank
evening.
you.
You too.
Good night.
Bye.
All
Take care.
righty.